Yes, the first thing you're going to do is your pre-trip, and you always start it from the front of your truck.
Okay.
All right, and you have to point at your parts as you call them out.
Okay.
So we've had people that can do the pre-trip. They went over there and they didn't point at the parts and they failed them.
Okay.
So make sure to point. And I always do from top to bottom. So you start off by pointing at the top of your truck. You say I have my clearance lights. I point down here. Say I have my turn signals, my four-ways, my reflectors, my headlights, high beam, low beam. They're properly mounted, secure, not cracked, bent, or broken. Proper color, good working condition, and my lenses are clean. Then you're going to point down underneath your tractor in the front and say, I do not observe any puddles or drips that would indicate a leak. That's it for the front. Then you're going to pop the hood open. Got these little latches on the side. Pop them up. Passenger side, next. After you pop your hood open, now on this side here, we use the Antonym Bear belts, exhaust, alternator, and radiator hose. So you start off by pointing at your belts, which are right here. Your belts are properly mounted secure, not cracked, bent, or broken. They're not ripped, torn, or frayed, and there's no more than a 1/2 to 3/4 inch free play. Then you're going to say my exhaust system. It runs from the front of my engine at my manifold to my tailpipe. It's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and there's no soot to indicate a leak. Then you're going to do your alternator, which is down here with the red paint on it on the bottom. My alternator is properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and is belt driven. Then you're going to point at your radiator hose and put your magic hand out for all other hoses are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, is not ripped, torn, or frayed, and there's no bulging and no leaks. And that's it for Bear. Now we're going to come back around on the driver's side, under the hood. Okay, now when you get over here, the first thing you're going to do, you're going to use the Antonym COP, C-O-P, coolant, oil, and power steering fluid. All my fluids are full, the caps are tight, and it's not leaking. Then you're going to go to your water pump, which is right there. Your water pump is properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and is belt driven, and it's not leaking. From the water pump, you're going to go straight back here in this area, point back here. Say I have my air compressor with air lines and my power steering pump. They're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. They're gear driven and not leaking. And the hoses, I'll check as previous, because when we did the radiator hose, we got all the hoses on this truck. All right, so now we started there, went back there. Now we're going to come back and drop down again. Right here's my frame. It runs from the front of my tractor to the back on both sides. It's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. It's free of illegal welding repairs, and there's no missing bolts. Come back to the front, start over again. Right here's your steering gearbox, your high pressure and low pressure line. They're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. It's not leaking. The lines I'll check as previous. Now when we did that, we started our steering system. So when we started it, we're going to finish it. So this is your pitman arm, your drag link, steering knuckle, and then down there on the bottom, the round pole, that right there is your tie rod and your tie rod ends.
Which one was the steering knuckle?
The steering knuckle is this piece right here. Comes out right here.
Okay. Steering knuckle.
And they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and there's no missing castle nuts or carter pins. Your castle nuts and carter pins are right here. That's a castle nut and the carter pin's in the middle. Right on top of that steering knuckle. That's a castle nut and carter pin. All right, that finished your steering components. Now we're going to do our suspension. This right here is your control arm. That's your control arm in the mount front and back. So I have my control arm. My control arm mounts front and back, my U-bolts, and my shock absorber. They're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. There's no missing bolts or bushings, and my shock absorber is not leaking hydraulic fluid. All right, that's it for the suspension. Now we're going to move on out this way.
Oh, hold on. I ain't got no more storage.
Mm.
Damn.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
I'm gonna do my brakes next. This is my brake chamber and my brake hose. They're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, not leaking. The hose I'll check is previous. Once we did that, we started the brakes. We're gonna finish them. Inside of here is your pads and rotors. My pads and rotors are properly mounted, secure, not cracked, bent, or broken, and they're not marked dangerously thin, and there's no parts missing. All right, now we're outside the wheel. We're gonna do our inner and outer hub oil seal. They're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and not leaking. Next, we're gonna do our lug nuts. Our lug nuts are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. None are missing, and there's no shiny threads or rust trails to indicate looseness. Next, we're gonna do our rim. Our rim is properly mounted, secure, not cracked, bent, or broken, is free of illegal welding repairs. Now we're gonna do our tire. Our tire is inflated to manufacturer specifications. It's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. It's not ripped, torn, or frayed, or bulging. The tire tread is worn evenly, and the tread depth is a minimum of 4/32. That's it from here. Now we're gonna move back. Now we're gonna do our driver's side door. Starting from the top, we got our mirror and our mirror mount. They're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and the mirror is clean. Next, I'm gonna do my door hinges, my driver's side door, and my door latch. They're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. It opens and latches securely. The last thing here is gonna be our side cab light. I'll check that as previous. Now we're gonna move back again. In my side compartment. In here, I should have a set of spare electrical fuses, 3 DOT reflective triangles, and a BC rated 10-pound fire extinguishers, properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and not leaking. Then I have my DEF and my diesel tanks. They're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. The caps are on tight, and the DEF is a minimum of 1/8 full. All right, now we'll go back again. Here I have my service airline and my emergency airline. I'll check those as previous. With these airlines, I have glad hands. My glad hands are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and the seals appear to be intact and they're not leaking. Then I have my electric line. It runs from the back of my cab to the front of my trailer. It's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, not ripped, torn, or frayed, and it's secured with a latch. Next, I have my catwalk steps, and my driver's side steps. They're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and they're free of obstructions. Under my catwalk, I have a drive shaft and U-joints. They're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and the U-joints appear to be in good condition. All right, now we're gonna move back again. Now right here is where we're gonna have to study a lot with the bobtail. You can't really see the parts, but I'm gonna call them out for you. And after lunch, we can go over to that bobtail, or maybe they got one over here. But as far as the trailer is concerned, underneath here, this flat piece of metal right here is your apron. And then the apron is sitting on the skid plate or the fifth wheel. So I have my apron and my skid plate. They're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and there's no gap between them. On that skid plate, I have a release handle, locking jaws inside of it, and a kingpin which comes out of the trailer. So I have my locking release pin, release handle, locking jaws, and kingpin. Properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. They're both in a lock position, securely locked around the kingpin shank. And then my mounting platform is this thing with all the rectangle holes in it. My mounting platform and bolts are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. There's no missing bolts or locking pins. And then the airline I'll check as previous. That little squiggly airline up there is what works. And that's your coupling system. All right, now as far as the coupling system, now we're gonna drop down and do our suspension. This thing right here is tied to your control arm mount. And that long skinny piece that runs this way is your control arm. So you have your control arm mount, your control arm. The U-bolts are behind the tire right about here. U-bolts. There's your shock absorber and your airbag. We have control arm mounts, U-bolts, shock absorber, and airbag. They're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. There's no missing bolts or bushings. And shock absorber is not leaking hydraulic fluid, and the airbag is not leaking air. Now we can move on to our brake system back here. Back here, we have a brake chamber and a brake hose like we do in the front. And we'll just say we'll check those as previous. But the brake chamber back here has a slack adjuster, a push rod, and pins on it. So my slack adjuster, my push rods, and my pins are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. And there's no more than 1 inch of travel when you release your brakes. And to finish the brakes back here, we have drums and liners back here. On the front axle, we have pads and rotors. Back here is drums and liners. It's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and they're not worn, dangerously dead. Now here's where we can do the previous game. Because our tire, our lug nuts, and our rim, we can check as previous, with the exception, the minimum tread depth back here is 230 seconds. There's no obstructions between my tires. My tires are not rubbing together. Then all we got left back here is our axle seal. Up there we have a hub oil seal. Back here is an axle seal. Our axle seal is properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and not leaking. Alright, now we have our splash guard and our mud flap. They're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. They're not rubbing on the ground, and they're not rubbing against the tires. On the back of my mud flap, I have a DOT reflective tape. It's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, not ripped, torn, or peeling. I have brake lights, tail lights, turn signals, four-ways, and reflectors. I'll check those as previous. Alright, now we're going to start over with the frame. This very front of the trailer is your header board. So my header board is properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and there's no holes in it. I have my trailer frame, which is all the shiny metal on the bottom and all the shiny metal on the top. So I have my frame, top to bottom, front to back. Properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and is free of illegal welding repairs. Once you get back here, past your apron, everywhere you see these 4 rivets, there's a cross member that runs across the bottom of the trailer. So I have my cross members. They're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. None are missing, and there's no holes in the floor. Then I can move on to my lights. I have marker lights on the top, a mid-marker light in the middle there. I have an ABS light and another marker light on the back. I'll check those as previous. I have my DOT reflective tape. I'll check that as previous because we got it on the back of the mud flap there. Next thing we're going to do is our landing gear. Your landing gear is the piece that goes straight up and down. Your landing gear frame is all this. So I have my landing gear and my landing gear frame. It's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. The legs are rolled in up position and the handle is secured with a latch. Now we're going to go back here. Now this trailer, I don't know how I keep ending up with it. Don't look at this suspension on this trailer because this right here is an old piece of junk. You're not going to take a test with it. They don't even use this on the highway anymore. We just use this in the yard. That trailer across from us over there, that's one that you will be taking a test with. That has a control arm and 2 bolts, all the same stuff that's behind the truck. But for today, we're going to use this one. This right here is your release handle, your tandem release handle, and this is your locking pins. So you have my tandem release handle and my locking pins. They're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and no pins are missing. Now you can play the as previous game because everything on these wheels are exactly the same as everything that's behind the cab up there. The only difference is those have power to them and these don't. So we'll say our axle seal, our lug nuts, our rim, and our tires. We'll check those as previous. Our control arm, control arm mount with bushings and bolts, our U-bolts, our shock absorber, and our airbag. We'll check that as previous. Our brake chamber, our brake hose, our slack adjusters, push rods, pins, drums, and liners. We'll check those as previous. I think that's it for that. You got a mud flap. Check that as previous. We'll get back here. Normally, these lights here are at the top. They're marker lights. You can see your marker lights, your tail lights, your four-ways, your turn signals, your brake lights, your turn signals, your license plate light. I'll check that as previous. My DOT reflective tape is previous. Then I'm going to do my hinges, my latch, and my lock. They're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, in good working condition. Then I'm going to come over here, this side. Once you get here, what you want to do is think about all the parts that you called out over there. If you're confident that you called your parts out right, you can say I'll check off the passenger side. It's the same as I did my driver. Once you say that, you're locked into that score, so you want to really stop and pause for a minute and think about it. Other than that, it's just pretty easy if you do it like I just did it. Because the whole thing took, what, 10 minutes? So it's not hard. The sheet is intimidating at first, but I promise you it's not hard.